Good evening. It is evening. You can see because I've got no light in the sky out here. It is winter in the UK, but we are here today on top of the lighthouse on Print Island, looking out across the industry from a 360-degree perspective. My name is Richard Askam, and I will be your host this evening. And we've made some room. We've actually had to push everything out to one side to get these guys in. We don't usually have this many guests at the top of the lighthouse, but we've made an exception tonight for four people who have done something really, I think, quite remarkable in the print industry over the last few months, and brought together a movement, started a tribe, which I think was long overdue and long needed. I am, of course, talking of the founders of Sheep for Brains, and I'm joined tonight by the wonderful Jess DeCola, the eloquent Christopher Minn, the energetic Dave Rosendahl, and the sexiest man alive, Mr. Jonathan Bailey. Evening, all.
All true.
All true.
Fake news.
Evening, Richard. I'm sorry I took your mantle.
That's fine. Somebody else had to take it, John. I'm now over the official age where you can be voted for, so that's fine. But it's lovely to see you all.
To share something. And you, mate.
Thank you for joining me here on Print Island. Do you know what? I'm really well, actually. Thank you for asking. Nobody ever asked me. I spend all my time asking other people. Nobody ever asked me. So thank you. Another reason why you are as where you are in the world. So, but I'm interested, as I'm sure our viewers and our listeners are to this particular podcast, about Sheep for Brains and really where it's come from, where the decisions are made, who's doing what, how does it all work? Who would like to kick off tonight by giving me the why behind Sheep for Brains? And if you don't
Jessica
volunteer,
will.
I'll pick.
Hey, I'm going to start off. Chris, you can start this time.
Well, I think seeing as you're the adult in the room, Jess, you should share the story and explain. You're technically in charge of us. So
I'm not technically in charge of anyone. Okay, no, I saw Richard last year at dScoop in Indianapolis in 2024. The sexiest man alive here, Jon Bailey, got up on stage. He didn't have that title yet, but at the moment, he got up on stage, essentially to hand his board chair position over to David Bennett. And he got up on stage and he threw the script out the window and he talked about his daughter and he talked about work and he talked about challenges that he faced that no one really talks about in a very authentic way. And Chris and Dave and I, prior to dScoop, had a couple of different webinars leading up to the conference itself, from a marketing perspective and from our own company's brands to kind of promote sustainability in the print industry. And so the three of us after found each other and said, my goodness, that was incredible. We need more of that authenticity and that vulnerability. And what do we do from there? And at one point throughout the next couple of days of that conference, each one of us found Jon and kind of had the same conversation with him about complimenting him on his speech and thanking him for providing that kind of platform and his vulnerability, but also recognize that there might be something more there because it was so well received. And then Chris or Dave, I'll let you take the second part of that story and kind of talk about what we did after the conference to pull this together.
yeah, so I think we obviously before this then decided that there was something really, really important that needed to be addressed. I think John and Dave were highlighting the fact that people go around trade shows saying everything's okay, how are you? Yeah, things are good, kids are good, business is great. When really on the surface, you're lying, you're probably struggling, you've got lots of big things to deal with, and no one was actually being honest or authentic. But that particular trade show, something changed, and maybe John was the catalyst. I personally think it was just stars were aligning. Jon said what he said, but also I think a few other key dScoop senior members also started to be a bit more honest. And I think we all realise that there's problems, and I think we're, post COVID, we need to address them. So we got on a call. I think about the week after or 2 weeks after dScoop. The plan was to start something. We didn't know what it would be, and 2.5 hours later, we knew we were onto something, but we were going deep and digging. And I'm now going to hand over to Jon because he's going to explain what we learned on that call with regards to therapy and our understanding of therapy or lack of understanding being Brits.
Could I just ask
we-
John before you jump in, what went through your mind in as you were standing up on the stage there? Because there must have been a point in your thinking where you thought, today's the day I'm going to say what I'm going to say. What was going through your head, and what was the trigger for changing that direction of conversation?
You know what, Bud? I think I'm lucky enough to be given a stage every now and again, right? And I don't take that for granted. I never have done. You know how hard I worked at what I care about from an industry perspective. And I felt that was a moment that couldn't just be the same speech, the same that everyone does, and the same that everyone's always done to say thanks for this and how great life is. And look, I make no excuses for the fact I walk around dScoop and everyone knows me and everyone wants a big hug and everyone wants to high five and everyone wants to be good. But there's been times, and this was one as well, where I've walked around like a zombie and it's been a fake smile. And actually, whilst I'm smiling, the world's crumbling around me at different points, whether that's work related, cash flow, business, customers, people, friends, health, and you smile and wave, and inside you're dying, right? And so I just thought that there was some energy at this event that needed to be addressed. A couple of the keynotes who talked to bringing some fire to the situation and turning up and bringing some fire to some meetings, and I just felt that it was a time to change it up a little bit. And if I was going to step down from that role, I wanted to make sure people knew that dScoop and what the people in that community stood for is more than just all smiles and waves and patting each other on the back. It's actually a community that is there to support and to help. And if you were to look at the demographics in that room, out of all the people with the great stories, I would say there's more people with bad stories right now in that industry than great stories, if the truth be told. And if that's the case, then you should be pushing the support mechanism more, at least as much, if not more, than all the innovation and the education pieces. So that's kind of where my head was.
I think that's really interesting. And Dave, that's I was chatting to Peter Van Tiesling in my little lighthouse last week, and we had this conversation about what community actually means. And I think largely that if you're a marketeer, it means a group of people that are going to be customers, and that's fine. If you are a human being, it means people that are going to look after you when you've got a bit of trouble, whatever that trouble might look like. And we all know, as we all get a little bit older, who our friends actually are. And there's nowhere near as many as we thought. But when you understand and can appreciate who the real ones are, that's when that community starts to form. Is that what you're finding now with Sheep for Brains? You've completely changed the conversation, haven't you?
Yeah, I think that what we're trying to do is, create space and create a room where we can model what it looks like to be vulnerable, the way Jon did on stage, and the way now I've learned that he pretty much not does everything, because I'm sure there's some things that he doesn't talk about, but he is, what we saw on stage is not an aberration for Jon. That's who he is, Richard. And so it hit me, because I didn't really know him that well up to that point, that this is the kind of authentic person that he is. And so that's kind of the spirit of what's brought us to pull this community together. We often say that, we're not therapists, right? But we want to model real talk from real people who typically wouldn't open up to each other in this way, because our mission is to help the one. If one person in any of our session gets the help or the encouragement or the inspiration that they need, that's the home run. That's it. It's not super complicated. That's what we're trying to do. And so in the community of people that have come together around this, our goal isn't that mental health continues to be whispered about. We want it to be integrated into the work and everything that we're doing to support each other and this industry.
Yeah, I think what's interesting to add on the execution of it is key, right? Because we're not therapists and we are just real people, and we all have our own problems, and we have great days and bad days. And I think the key to it is the authenticity of the delivery as well, and that people feel safe to come and listen. And they come and listen at the start, and then the second session they're getting involved, in the third session they're contributing, in the fourth session they want to be part of it and to be actually sharing the word and spreading the word. And I think that's to do with the delivery piece and how we do it a bit different, because you've got to make it feel really open and really, really accessible. And I love that about where we've ended up. And I think that's part of the community who got involved as well, where we do joke about it. We do take it to the edge. We're pretty edgy on some of the stuff we talk about, and we have those hard conversations. We then laugh about it, we cry about it, but we get very serious as well very quickly on it. And I think people can relate to it, and that's the key, right? They can relate to this group, because it's nice all the stuff they said about it, but it's not about me. It's this group, and it's they can relate to the fact that we all walk around and everyone sees us on social media and everything's great, but actually this group of people are really pretty authentic and pretty vulnerable. I think that's why we're getting the momentum.
And Jess, it's quite interesting, isn't it? Because historically, people go to see a therapist because they want anonymity. They don't want to talk to the people that they know. They kind of want to hide away and keep their thoughts and feelings to themselves, and may be happy to talk to a stranger, which often is a good thing as well, by the way. But in this case, you're taking the opposite approach. You're saying to your colleagues and your peers in the industry, you know who we are, you know what we do. Let's share a little bit with you, and you share a little bit with us. Have you had any pushback on that from anybody? Do you find that anybody is still sort of sitting back a little?
I hear what's interesting, Richard, is I think that's the beauty of it, right? Is that nobody understands this industry truly unless you work in it. I mean, I tell people outside of the industry, I work in print. They're like, what does that mean? Like, do you publish books? And so there's this vague understanding of really all of the intricacies of what our industry is, because it's not just print, it's technology, it's AI, it's all of these things it's every single component of every other industry kind of wrapped up into one. And to try to explain that to other people it's mind-numbing sometimes. So when you have a group of people who genuinely understand what your day-to-day looks like, what peak season feels like, and to be able to share those frustrations and that stress and that anxiety, it provides a space that feels comfortable. And to answer your question, I'm sure there are people on the periphery that aren't necessarily showing resistance externally, but are not participating, but they hear and they see. I mean, we talk about, we have conversations with people we've never met at Printing United. I mean, we were just there last month, and other various shows who said, oh, hey, I saw this post, or I saw that podcast, or I saw that recording. And we have no idea because they didn't join, or they heard about it from someone else. And so we know that people way further that extend our constellation have seen and are hearing it. I think it just takes the repetitiveness of what we're doing, and continuing to build this for those people to feel a little bit more comfortable to kind of lean in. But we know they're out, like, we'll find you.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And you know what, Rich? Some people aren't liking it and aren't comfortable with it, and that's great. That's great. We would push the people uncomfortable. We've had people walk out of meetings when we started talking about it before because they're not comfortable with it, right? That rocks my world. I love that, because that's what we got to get to. And I can tell you they will walk away, but they'll be sat walking away because they feel awkward because it's an issue for them. Not necessarily they don't believe. So we'll keep pushing that, and we'll keep having those combos. And I think the other thing what we've noticed is, for example, is I have people on my team who I never would have thought have challenges join our calls, and they're brave enough to join. And then what we do is we make sure we give them Dave's number to reach out to, or Jess's or Chris's, so they have someone, not me, right? And that's the other thing we're doing. We're supporting people we don't know, and passing that around as well in that kind of safe zone, and that's working really well.
That's really interesting, Dave. One of the reasons we set up Print Island was to give almost a bit of a poke in the ribs to the industry to stop just talking to itself, and get off the island and go and meet the rest of the world that's involved, interested in its services. But actually, Sheep for Brains is kind of the opposite of that, because you want people to know that they are part of that community, that big world that everybody's in. And as Jon just said, sometimes that takes a little bit longer for some people to get engaged than others. In your experience, in the short time that you've been involved with Sheep for Brains, how do you gauge that enthusiasm to have this conversation? Is it a problem that runs deep across the industry, do you think?
What I would say, Richard, is that this group, this Sheep for Brains community, is relatively new. Jess, you have a better memory than I do. Is this our second year? I don't know how long.
It'll be 2 years in the spring.
Wow, amazing.
So
So officially 2 years, but Richard, probably about 3, 4, 5 years ago, somewhere around the pandemic, I decided that I was going to stop pretending that everything was okay and be very open online, specifically on LinkedIn, about mental health and, you know, things that normally aren't talked about on LinkedIn. And so for me, it doesn't feel new. It feels like it's the coming together or the culmination of what I've already been trying to do myself. And now I've got 3 beautiful, sexy people with me who are creating, yes, you too, Chris, are creating a movement that, you know, is giving back in a way that can make sure that people in our industry aren't just surviving, but trying to give them hope. And I think that what I see, I've given this example, and I think I've shared it with my colleagues here, is that there is one very specific person that's kind of the archetype whenever I think about the pushback that we get. Who, can you bleep things out, Richard? If I drop a few choice words?
Let's say yes.
Let's say yes. Okay. Good answer. So he says to me, because he's watched all the stuff online and then this Sheet for Brain stuff, he's like, "You're a fucking idiot. You're a P word. You know, you're a wuss." I'm softening his language. And, you know, you're talking about all this stupid mental health stuff. And meanwhile, how come you aren't working on my business? How come you guys aren't working more on what I need? Mental health, that's a fucking waste of time. Very much what he says to me. And yet, a few months back, I'm in the back of a car with him in an Uber, and he gets a phone call and he hangs up, and I see him sweating and his face is turning red and he's rubbing his head. He's like, "Oh my gosh, this anxiety. Every morning I wake up, I just don't want to go to work. I feel this weight on my chest." And I'm like, "Dude, do you know what you're describing there?" He's like, "I know, fucking shut up. I know. So even this guy who's like, "No, mental health is for weaklings," admits in a candid conversation one-on-one that even he's going through it. It's hard for him to admit it. I don't know why. I guess I do know why. I shouldn't say that. But if we can help somebody like that, and there are many like that aren't willing to talk about it yet, man, that's what makes this all worth it.
Yeah, I mean, the perfect example, story,
right?
Yeah, the story, Rich, right? We go to we talk about therapists tonight. So these Americans come on saying, "Oh yeah, I've been going to therapy since I was 3 months old."
Yep.
You know,
2 months old.
And I'm like, no, we don't. I'm a grey head from Yorkshire. We don't do therapy. So we have this big debate about therapy, and then I realized I had to leave because I had my mindset coach meeting, and we established that that's a therapist. So yeah, we're all kind of in there, really.
We've also established as well, just for viewers at home, that Dave ranks the P word above the F word, and now that's good to know as well. So
yeah, that's okay. That's okay as well.
Welcome to conclusion.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I'm just getting a sense of it all. That's no problem.
Do you know what's good about it, Richard? This is the only call you've ever been on with me where I'm not the one dropping all the F-bombs, so it's perfect, right?
That is true, but that is because you are the sexiest man alive and you wouldn't dream of doing such a thing.
Thank you.
Chris, let me come to you, because I think more than anybody probably in the Sheet for Brains organization, you've got a sense of how important the work that you're doing is for the industry as it's becoming, as it now is, as the future of the print industry for the next 20, 30 years comes. What I'm trying to say is you're younger than everybody, but you get a sense now of how people need this service and this approach to the working life. I love the fact that Jon says, this is we're people that work in the industry, so yes, we're role models for some people, but actually it should be a guiding light as well for the future. Do you see that in the work that you're doing now? Do you see that this is almost part of the package?
Yeah, I do actually. I think what surprised me is that originally, when we were looking at the situation back in that dScoop 2 years ago, and we were looking at the business owners, we probably didn't realize as a next generation that we're also looking for some kind of mental health structure, stability in the world they're about to join. And I think the biggest thing that stands out to me, especially recently at Printing United, was seeing how the academia, the students that are coming into the industry now, are drawn to what Sheep for Brains stands for and what it does, and they get in behind it. And I kind of see it as a bit of a magnet in the middle, really, pulling all these different groups that are fairly siloed in our industry, and they're all coming around a common theme to get behind it and support it. So I'm hoping that we're going to educate all those different groups into the importance of what we need to do, be tolerant of the older generation, change your language, your mindset for the younger generation, and then generally have a better industry in the next 10 years. I mean, that's what I hope.
Because that's always the
the other-
challenge, Jess, isn't it? Is and we hear this virtually at every event that any of us go to. It's how do we attract the next generation, and that has to be from the language that we use. It can't just be the products. It can't just be the outcomes. It can't just be even the tech. That almost feels as though that's now part of the landscape. So it boils down to language, doesn't it? If you talk in a different way, people will hear it differently.
Absolutely. I mean, we did a podcast with the students, Mackenzie and Tara from Ferris University. They're students that come to dScoop every year with the education program. And we did a podcast with them not too long ago. And I feel that we learned so much more from them than they learned from us in that hour that we were with them, about what they find attractive and what is drawing them to different industries, and in the print especially. And mental health and wellness and therapy, it's inherent for them. I mean, they talked about it very openly, and it's just part of what that generation does. Is that self-care and that self-well-being. And so, to your point, if we want to attract this next generation of printers and people in our industry, we have to listen to what they're doing and what they need and what is meaningful to them. And this is certainly part of that. But conversely, it's helping us too. I mean, I have a mini therapy session with these guys every Tuesday. I mean, we do what we need to do to continue to build this, but there's also 15, 20 minutes we carve out just to make sure that we're checking in with one another. And if you don't have a community like that, I mean, goodness, what are you doing?
When I was chatting to Peter, John, a couple of days ago, he was talking about the formation of dScoop back 20 years ago, and how and it was Jack, wasn't it, Jack Glacken, that wanted to bring people together to. So I guess the dScoop conversation started with two people. Wouldn't it be a good idea if? And here we are 20 years later with, I don't know, 25,000 members of dScoop worldwide. Is this your ambition for Sheep for Brains? Is this something that you want to see grow in the same way and the same scope and depth as dScoop has?
Yeah, look, we're keeping it real, because at the end of the day, we just want to help the one. So we had a face-to-face meeting, our first annual meeting a few weeks back in Atlanta, and we started rounding out all these great ideas about how we wanted to take over the world and dominate everything. And then we brought it right back to actually, no, we just want to make sure that one person who's thinking of doing something silly isn't going to do something silly. And that fundamentally is our core goal. So we are working on plans and how we're going to expand, and we're going to use our constellation to do that. And we're going to build tools for businesses to do that with their people. And we're going to build tools for our people who are involved in the community who want to lean in to be able to expand the community and grow it that way. While we very much, us four, stay focused on the value of why we set this up in the first place is to help that one. But I think where I'm most excited about it, and where I think it will grow, is as people understand the importance of it. Yes, it is critical for the individual. Right? Our industry is so tough. It's such a hard industry. It's only going to get harder. And this is going to be paramount. It's going to be so much bigger every year for the next 20 years than we've ever realized. And I'm just proud that we're building that foundation within dScoop and other organizations that is going to be the mental health and well-being representation of our industry. We believe will be powered by Sheep for Brains for now and for long term. But I think what's really important is, and someone put a post out on LinkedIn about us today, and the quote is actually perfect. And what she said was, I'll read it: a business that talks openly about mental health, diversity, neurolinguistics, belonging, and community impact and the human edge isn't just preparing for the next 1,000 days of AI. It's building resilience, loyalty, and a workforce that actually wants to stay and grow. Now, as a business, if you're not doing that, right, then you're not building business for the next 20 years. So this is not just a nice to have. This is going to be critical for attracting and retaining talent. Also, from a customer perspective, brands want to work with people that have the same beliefs and are looking after people the same way. So if that helps people get over the fact that they need to start talking about this because they don't want to talk about it personally from a business perspective, you've got to lean in and understand it. So if all you do is engage with Sheet for Brains to learn and to listen and to understand why it's so important, then I would urge people to do that as well, even if it's not a personal thing or they don't want to talk, because the businesses need to learn from it as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. And actually, Dave, the legend that is John Tolley coined the phrase a few years ago about 1 million wands. You talk about the one. There are obviously a lot of wands around the world. What's your ambition, do you think, in terms of reach for the next few years with Sheet for Brain? I mean, I'm delighted to be associated with your organization. I think Print Island is a very welcome residence for you guys whenever you want to broadcast anything. Our island is your island. How can we get that across to those 1 million ones?
I think we're already starting to see it happen, Richard. The founding moment, if you will, being within dScoop, but now starting to branch into other similar organizations and even industries adjacent to ours, like textile and garment printing, and then even beyond that. John or Jess, you were telling me we have like 5 or 6 of these type things lined up for next year already?
Yeah, we've got 5 or 6. Sorry,
6
Jess.
global events, right?
Mm-hmm. Not just
we also have 2. Sorry, Jess. We also have 2 industry bodies in the UK, both engaging with us in the last couple of weeks, wanting us to represent their membership base in the UK. Sorry, Jess. Go on, please, about the.
No, it was just an extension of Dave's comment.
Yeah. So Richard, I think, as we look at our community of sheetheads, if you will, and how the message is spreading from within, dScoop and kind of these concentric circles out into the industry at large, I don't want to put a limit or a number on it, because as John said, and the team has echoed here, it's about reaching the one. But I think that this has the potential to become like an operating system or a substrate layer here, if you will, in this industry and beyond, that becomes a pillar for how people think about the sustainability of their people and the well-being of their most critical asset, which is, ourselves and our people and our families. That's an enduring mission.
I think to add to that, and Jess is leading this charge, we're going to be a registered charity by the new year, right, in the US and then internationally.
Yep.
That's right, Jess. You want to?
Correct.
We are going through the motions to file statewide, but also federally, and then have international allowances for us to be an actual charitable association. So when these organizations approach us and ask us to be part of their programs, or businesses want to help support, there's a way for them to do it other than hopping on a Zoom call with us. And that will allow us to expand and grow and have the reach that we think is so critical to have with this. So we're hoping that by the end of the year, if not the very beginning of 2026, we'll have that established. And there will be a very big splashy press release and all kinds of social media and comms around that. So
I think it's really important. I think that does give great. Yeah. I think it gives us a structure and it gives people a place to go, because we're serious about this, and it's it's not for profit organizations. So, but we're going to start getting some funds from these companies that want to be associated and getting them involved and use that to improve our industry and people's lives. So I think it's a very exciting period for us.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Let's be honest, for the last.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. No, I've leaned on, and I've been so fortunate and lucky to be surrounded by some of the most incredible people in this industry who believe in this mission. The Blooming Colors, the Branded by Woods. I mean, the list goes on. Of people who've literally printed things for us, who've hosted us on podcasts to further spread the word, who've published our press releases without question, and supported and uplifted. But to have that designation, to be able to go out there and really kind of expand that reach and not ask for favors, is going to be a really great thing for this.
Yeah, no, I agree. And Chris, as I've said to you before, I think this is a perfect place for this content to live on Print Island. We've created a number of locations across the island for different streams of content for the whole industry. And we've been wanting for some time to create something called the Sanctuary, which is where anybody can go and feel safe and have a conversation. And I'd very much like to give the Sanctuary to Sheep for Brains as my gift to what you're doing, because I think it's incredible what you four guys have done so far. Chris, what do you?
We would take that and run with it.
Absolute pleasure.
We would take that with us.
Chris, you mentioned earlier on about an allyship, is so important, I think, in any industry. What you've created in terms of what Sheep for Brains delivers, I think any partner company across the industry that can demonstrate that they're allied with you, whether that's a kite mark on the website or a whatever, a little lapel badge, whatever it is, I think it's not quite a secret society, because you lot are way too loud for it to be secret. But how are you going to get this message out there far and wide, do you think, over the coming years?
Well, I think first of all, Richard is working with partners in the media that are going to support our message, get more people to the sessions. I think that's key. We have a session coming up next week. It's really important that we get as many people, as many different verticals in print, first of all, aware of it. And the only way we're going to do that is by leading with our media partners. And I think, just to go back to the last dScoop, there were some media partners that came along to our session that we delivered during Long Beach. And they were like, oh, I get it now. How can I help? And I think that's what we're hearing. So I think naturally it's happening. When we were at Print United week before last, there was a great reception there. It's naturally becoming something that everybody wants, needs. And I think if businesses want to carry that kite mark, that's fantastic, because ultimately what we're trying to do is advise businesses as well on best practices. And it's something that, four of us can't do it on our own. So we're going to have a pyramid and grow that. So
Rich, if you think about from an expansion perspective, people like you doing this is massive, right? So this is why we spend the time and we want to do this, because you're giving us this platform, and what you've just said there is massive, and it means a lot to us. So we need to do this more and more, and we're putting our time in to do it. I think Jess gave out 48 million lapel badges at Print United as well. So that's going to be spreading the word. But this year coming, just to sort of wrap that up, is we're going to go from one face-to-face event to hopefully, to at least 3 or 4, maybe more, right, coming. We're going to carry on with our podcast, which is the core of what we do. We've got 15 to 20 new partners like yourself and others that are willing to put the SFB name to their mental health awareness and the mental health platforms and programs. So that's where the kite mark starts to come in, where people can say their content is powered by Sheep for Brains and supported by Sheep for Brains. And once we get the charitable status done for end of the year or New Year, we're going to be able to really ramp that up. So that's the goal for this next 12 months. And then, like I say, we're going to be starting to provide tools for businesses to actually have those hard conversations, for managers, leaders, owners, to have those hard conversations with their people as well. So then Sheep for Brains becomes just part of what you think about in your daily business. Is how do we make sure we have those conversations that brings the topics into our businesses. So that's going to be later this year. So I think it's a busy year.
Yeah, well, it's amazing, and thank you. And I know you're all busy. It's a busy time of year anyway. So thank you for joining me in the Lighthouse here on Print Island. It's been an absolute pleasure to hear more about Sheep for Brains, and I hope people listening to this can understand exactly not what it is, but what it's for. And I think that's the most important thing of all. So thank you to my guests this evening, Jess DeCola, Dave Rosendahl, Chris Minn, and of course, the sexiest man alive, Mr. Jonathan Bailey.